So it's safe to say that there's still a ton of interest around Battlefield 2042. My most recent video is one of the most viewed on my channel, and the most recent Steam charts numbers are way up thanks to the improvements made to the game and the free weekend promotion. With 2042 on the cusp of really bouncing back, there are a lot of new players, and I've seen some comments about the chaos of the new Spearhead map and how it can be a bit difficult to manage everything going on while staying aggressive and playing the objective as an infantry player. While I'm not the greatest player in the world, I have been playing the series for a long time, and I've always prioritized that style of play. So I thought I'd take the time here today to talk about my general approach to aggressively playing the objective while maintaining a positive kill to death ratio. And before we get into that, if you're looking for a more general, in-depth walkthrough of this game's mechanics, especially if you're new to the Battlefield franchise, I'll link an excellent video from the Catwoman in the description. She's one of the best Battlefield creators, and her recent video aimed at new players is probably better than anything I can make, so check it out if you're interested. So to start off with, there's weapon selection. Fortunately, in 2042, there are a lot of strong weapons, and outside of the railgun, I actually think things are really well balanced. That said, there are some weapons that are catered more to the aggressive playstyle, and I find myself gravitating almost exclusively to the assault rifles and submachine guns. From the AR category, there are several options here, but I'll quickly go through the ones that I use the most. Up first is the trusty M5. It's the first assault rifle available to you, and it's an incredibly versatile and flexible gun. Part of the reason it's my overall most used weapon in the game is that it can be used in so many different situations. I'll throw my build up on the screen. While I fill all the attachment slots, I almost never change off of the initial ones that I have on the gun, as I limit my engagements almost entirely to close and medium range. The other attachments in the Plus system are usually just there as a just-in-case type of scenario. For the optic, I usually rely on the Fusion Hollow along with the TV2X and the Maul Hybrid for longer range. For the barrel, my main pick is the short barrel for that increased fire rate, but I also take a suppressor and the long barrel as backups. I'll talk more about suppressors in a bit though. For the underbarrel, just use the LWG grip. If you're aggressive, you're going to be strafing while firing, and this grip helps with that as well as generally reducing recoil. The other grips really don't matter in this game, and you could fill the remaining 2 slots as you like, though I usually take a smoke grenade launcher in case I need some visual cover. Finally, for the ammo, I use the close combat ammunition almost all of the time for that increased fire rate and the reload speed, plus you get a decent improvement to the recoil. The other 2 slots are filled with the standard extended mag as well as the regular mag. Magazines do come in handy here because if you run out of ammo on your current ammo type, you can switch to a different ammo type in the plus menu and you'll instantly get max ammo again for that new ammo type. With this setup, you have something that will generally destroy other assault rifles up close with that really fast fire rate while also being competitive with SMGs, especially if you're landing those headshots that take advantage of the higher headshot damage assault rifles have. And if for some reason you need to engage at longer ranges, the M5 is no slouch even with these short range attachments due to the reduced recoil, but you can swap to the longer range attachments as needed. From there, I also use the AM40 from time to time for its similar characteristics as an assault rifle SMG hybrid, and the AK-24 has really good TTK and a large drum magazine. Generally though, I find these 2 options to be a little bit less versatile, so I'd usually rather take the M5 most of the time. For SMGs, I really only use 2 these days. The first and most important one is the K30. Lightning fast TTK up close, crazy fast fire rate that's forgiving even if you miss shots, a large magazine, and access to heavy suppressors. As far as I know, only 3 weapons among the ARs and SMGs can use heavy suppressors. Along with the K30, there's the MP9 from the SMG category, but the nerfs it's received have made it less viable in my opinion, and I really don't use it that often anymore. The AC-42 is the only assault rifle as far as I'm aware that can use heavy suppressors, but it's a burst gun and doesn't really suit my playstyle. Heavy suppressors in this game behave as you would expect from any traditional arcade FPS. They keep you off the minimap at all times while firing your weapon, and this usually comes at the cost of bullet velocity or damage range. With SMGs, staying off the minimap is extremely important since I do a lot of flanking and moving, and it's imperative that the enemy can't find me at those really close ranges on the smaller maps where SMGs tend to shine. All the other suppressors in this game only keep you off the minimap for enemies that are over 10 meters away from you, so if you get a flank on several people and you kill one of them and your weapon is using a light suppressor, all of the other enemies very close to you will see you on the map. What's worse is that you'll be on that map for a full 5 seconds, so even if they didn't pay attention immediately, they can still see you on the map several seconds later. While the chaos of this game can help distract enemies from your presence, it's still important to maintain stealth if possible with the SMG since they require you to get so up close and personal. After the K30, I occasionally use the PP29 for its large magazine and balanced performance, but generally speaking, I prefer the M5 for this general purpose kind of use. You can usually use any SMG that you prefer here if you don't want to use the K30. Though for a stealthy playstyle, I do really strongly recommend the K30. From here, here we get the specialist selection, and for the most part, I stick to McKay. His grapple gun is incredibly versatile, not just for changing elevation, but for doing a cool bunny hop trick that can generate a ton of forward momentum or just throw off your opponent. You can accomplish this trick by aiming the grapple gun at the ground in front of you, and as soon as you start moving forward, do not touch any movement buttons. This would be W, A, S, and D on the keyboard or the left analog stick on controller, and as soon as McKay hits the ground again at the end of the grapple, just start spamming the jump button, but still do not press any movement keys. The biggest thing I love about McKay though is that he moves faster while aiming, which just makes him a much harder target in gunfights as long as you move while shooting, which you should always be sure to do in closer engagements. Some honorable mentions for Zane with his health regeneration whenever he kills an enemy, and Falk, whose healing pistol opens up that gadget slot to be filled with something not healing related. For the gadget, I take the medical bag. It heals you really fast and can heal allies, so it's just all around a great choice. But if you want to prepare for the specialist rework early, you can switch to the med pen. The idea is to keep my health topped up and sustain me quickly after gunfights so I can stay in the fray. From here we get to the juicy bits, and that's some gameplay decisions. In this role, you have a few main objectives that should guide the way you approach the map and your decisions. For me, rule number one is to create as much havoc as possible while remaining alive for as long as possible. I don't always need to get a ton of kills, though that is preferred. What I'm really trying to do is disrupt enemy attacks, slow them down, distract them, and generally weaken them while my teammates get in a better position to either defend an objective or help me take it. A couple of initial things to accomplish this are pretty simple. Make sure you're looking at that minimap as often as possible, like more than you think you need to. Generally when I'm playing, I am almost always watching the minimap and not gluing my eyes to the center of my screen unless I think I'm gonna fight pretty soon. The map tells me enemy troop movements and vehicle positioning, and that informs me about how I should move in position. Seeing where the enemies are attacking me allows me to flank behind and slow down their attack, or see vehicles on the map, which tells me where I should avoid going. When enemies are attacking, I generally try to flank them and get a quick kill or two, then reposition. I will constantly be moving. Do not stand still for a second. The idea here is to distract the enemy and slow down their offensive. While several enemies will be busy tracking you down after you've killed one or two of them, you'll have squad mates spawning in to help you out, allies spawning in to help defend the objective, and friendly vehicles moving in to build a stronger defense. All you're doing is buying time. There's a good chance you'll die in this scenario, but your goal is to stall the enemy and allow squad mates to spawn on you. Dying is perfectly fine. It can allow you to spawn somewhere else where you might be useful. An adjacent strategy here is to identify which spawn point your enemies are using to attack the objective you want to defend. This is usually whatever flag they control that is closest to the one you want to defend. With this, I'll usually choose between two things. One is to just cut off reinforcements. I'll just roam the outskirts of the objective waiting for enemies to spawn and run out without paying attention, then pick them off. Sometimes I'll even start spawning in again and looking for me, but by this time I've already repositioned again and I can just shoot them in the back. And this will just keep repeating and slowing them down, and eventually my allies will overwhelm them. And if I get to the enemy flag and no one's really spawning there, I'll just try to capture it. Again, when you're trying to capture an objective, especially when you're solo or outnumbered, you need to keep moving. But when you're doing this sneaky cap behind their enemy lines, you're just trying to draw them back, which weakens their attack, or you can just get the objective if they don't decide to defend. When I'm on the offensive side of things, I tend to try to take objectives by finding some way I can sneak into the enemy capture area, and then I just try to hold down a small portion of it. Usually I'll be solo or outnumbered here, and I might be facing multiple enemies. Really what I'm looking for are areas that can provide tons of cover. I know that sounds pretty simple, but I'm usually looking for covered walkways, high walls, corridors, and areas with tons of crates. I'll usually run around these areas and try to keep my back or my sides covered by a wall. This allows me to take on opponents in one-on-one or one-on-two gunfights that are a little easier for me to win, with as few angles for more distant opponents to shoot me from and as few opportunities for the enemy to swarm me. If I have a wall at my back or at my side, then they can't really surround me, and that's a whole side that I don't have to worry about. If you've ever seen the movie 300, you'll understand the logic I'm using here. And from there, there's just a few general knowledge and experience-based things to think about. Make sure to know the common camping spots at the objectives. Avoid too much flat, open space, and limit your presence to indoor areas like the queue buildings of Spearhead or the beach ship of Stranded, or outdoor areas with a lot of natural cover and uneven terrain like Renewal, Spearhead, and Orbital, or objectives that have lots of crates like the B objective on Kaleidoscope. Then just know when to change gears. Sometimes you need to be stealthy and flank, sometimes you need to be in the heat of everything at the front line. Keep a beat on the battle so you know what's needed. And also just know when you're not needed somewhere. If you have a dozen allies capturing an objective with only one enemy, then move on to something else. You're not needed here and will probably be more useful somewhere else. With all of this said, you'll probably still struggle on the launch maps that haven't been reworked yet. Breakaway and Hourglass are especially challenging, but I'm sure the upcoming reworks will improve that a lot. but you can also just feel free to experiment with different playstyles on these maps. If you're coming from smaller scale games like Call of Duty, it can be jarring and difficult at first to adjust, but just stick with it and you'll eventually learn how all the maps flow and which areas are best for you. And that about does it for my initial thoughts on aggressive play, and I want to hear from all of you. What's your preferred style of play? What's your favorite loadout? Who's your favorite specialist? Was there anything I missed in this? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to talk more about it. And with that, I'll leave you all with the rest of the uncut gameplay. Leave a like or a dislike, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Take some! Both sectors now occupied by hostiles. Charlie 2 secured by us. Sector Echo is under our control. Grenade out! We're moving to attack Charlie 1. One down! By any measure, we're at half strength. Away we go!
The hostiles control more sectors than we do. Counterattack immediately.
We now control Sector Delta. Here, first aid! Spent half their strength, but they're still dangerous. Sector Delta has been captured by us.
They're attacking one of hostiles located!
We have secured more sectors than our enemy. Make sure you defend them. Here to help. Trouble out here! Bring it on! Targeted spot. Enemies attacking Delta 1. Threat sight! Grenade! Grapple down! If we don't stop them, they'll take every sector. They've occupied Sector Delta. Take some first aid! Grenade for him! Right neutralized! Enemy has fallen. I'm reloading!
Can you hold me up?
We now hold more sectors than they do. Good work. There! Open vehicle! Med supplies! Use them!
The enemy is focusing on Bravo 1.
Sector Alpha has been taken by the enemy. We don't control enough sectors. Secure those objectives.
Target targeted. Begin the assault.
Down one! They've captured Sector Bravo. The enemy holds more sectors than us. It's time to push up. We just took an objective. Grenade out! Hold on! Need ammo! Our troops are advancing on Charlie 1. Charlie 1 is now ours. We got Sector Charlie. Reload. They have control of Sector Echo. Charlie 2 is under attack. Target down. Those sectors now occupied by hostiles. I need a transport vehicle at my marker.
Wilco, the vehicle's on its way.
occupied Sector Delta.
Delta 1 is being secured by friendlies.
Allied forces depleted. Use what you've got. Echo 2 under Allied control.
Help me! Don't let me die over here!
We must push the Russian. You are overwhelmed. We must take our losses and retreat while we still can.